Hello, everyone. Welcome back to No One is Perfect, the unfiltered conversations of life's messiness. And isn't that so true?
Oh my God, yes.
Oh, hello, Marty. Good to see you again.
You do every day.
Right? So, today we are going to talk about a, a subject that I find fascinating. We're going to talk about something that sounds really simple, and but it can be wildly difficult in real life. And this is allowing yourself to feel your feelings and without getting trapped in the story of your feelings because they
Right.
can trap us and then we get stuck and we get stuck in the emotion of it, but more importantly we get stuck in the meaning we attach to the emotion, and we get stuck in this mental courtroom and we keep going over what they said and what we said and what they said and what we said in the scenarios, and that creates what's called the psychic prison, where the
Mm,
mind keeps looping because what it's doing is it's trying to solve a feeling like it's a problem. We're trying to make a mental construct out of something that's a feeling construct. And if you've ever thought, why can't I stop thinking about this? That actually is called a loop. And also, what is wrong with me that I'm still thinking about this? Believe me, I've done that a million times. And we just want to name that gently, that your system is trying to protect you. Your mind's trying to create certainty in some way. But the cost that happens when our minds do this is we disconnect from our body and our feeling sense. And we shut everything down from your chin down. So we stay in the mind. And so in this episode, Marty and I wanted to talk about, okay, how do we change that loop? By that doesn't mean using toxic positivity because I don't think that's helpful.
ugh.
Yeah, and not telling yourself that you need to calm down because I
Ugh,
don't think
that
that's
just calms me right down.
right. But we are going to lean into, okay, how can we interrupt a pattern that is hijacking us from story and feeling the sensation of the story in our bodies and giving it room, giving it space, and then from that sensation to make a choice, a different choice. So we don't stay in that loop and continue to be there for weeks, sometimes years, sometimes decades, because this is a very real thing. And I think the thing that is the most challenging about the psychic prison, that logically it sounds ridiculous, that the keys are hanging on the wall of the prison and the doors open. And we don't know, number one, how to pick up the keys or that we have access to it.
Hmm.
And there's no shame in it because our human nature is, I mean, we are hardwired to survive. And what I hope we can offer today are a few keys for people that they can see and they go, oh my God, there's a key. I'm going to take that key and unlock myself out of this loop so I quit getting hijacked by the story.
Hmm.
So that's our conversation today, Marty, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah, me too. And I love it. And, Chris, we always have great conversations before we even hit record. And
Yeah.
it made me think when I first started doing tapping, I became aware of like, I think my feelings rather than feel them.
Yeah.
And it's a survival tactic, but I think the big key in a lot of what I heard and what you were saying is that it goes back to that judgment of a self. The keys are there, but sometimes we can't even see the keys. I think about like, say there's a car you've never seen before. All of a sudden you see the car, now you see the car everywhere. Maybe it's been
Yeah.
around for a year and you never saw it, but suddenly you see it everywhere because your awareness is heightened to it. And if you weren't taught autonomy as a child, if you weren't taught sovereignty, you're going to think you don't have that capacity within you. And I see the biggest thing in my own life, one of the biggest things I've had to learn is that sovereignty and autonomy. Instead of I was taught, if those people would just behave differently, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
And that was just an endless loop of disappointment and why do they keep doing that and why do they keep, and then I would just shut down on my feelings, on my body, instead of when I found tapping, I was like, oh, I'm no longer afraid of my emotions. Doesn't mean they're comfortable, doesn't
Mhm.
mean I want to feel them, but I do see feeling fully is the way through them. And that is what will open the eyes to, oh, there's keys right there. Because
Yeah.
as you lower cortisol, lower adrenaline, allow yourself to, feelings aren't buried dead, they're buried alive. As you start to regulate, you have access to the prefrontal cortex, that slower thinking part of the brain that's like, oh, there's keys.
Yeah. And that takes, I think, the awareness around that, and also noticing when your nervous system is so activated that you disconnect from feeling and sometimes disconnect from any sense of emotion or feeling, sometimes even in the body.
Mhm.
How many people I've met through my practice through the years, how are you doing? Well, I don't know. I don't feel anything. And the movement is so fast it's almost like a running away from feeling. Be,
Yeah.
to stop would, right, there's a tsunami.
Yes.
And what I hope we can invite in is an allowing of noticing when the nervous system is so activated that we either shut down, crawl under the blanket, which is appropriate sometimes, run away. Can we give that some space and then choose from that space?
I love this, Christy, and I love what you're saying because, as you know, I just fostered two dogs, and they just found their forever homes, and it's fascinating. There were actually three dogs, but I only had the three for like a day and a half. But the two brothers had distinctly different personalities, same litter. The one's survival tactic is, I'm gonna love everybody and
Yeah.
jump on your lap, lick you. The other one was way more skittish, way more kept to themselves. And to know that they both have trauma, but they're showing up differently with it. And to notice that and not try to force one to be like the other in any way, shape, or form, but to allow them, like to allow the one little guy to be skittish, to allow him. And it became this game. Then when I would go to put the leash on him and take him out for a walk, he'd dart on one side of the island because I kept him in our fifth wheel and I stayed in there with him. He'd dart on one side, then dart to the other. It was like this going around the center island. And then all of a sudden I grabbed a little barrier. It's a real lightweight fence. He could have busted through it. And then he's like, oh, she's coming to get me. But the more that happened, the more it just became a game. And then eventually he would, because I wasn't trying to force anything other than you're going to get on the leash at some point here. But I didn't get hostile with him. He jumped up on the couch that's right by the door. And then he's like, and then I could put it on him. So I was really paying attention to these two very distinctly different personalities and the way that they were both dealing with all this adjustment that
Mhm.
happened to them and very much not making either one wrong.
Right.
But that's what we learn. Our culture is, to me, so toxic that way. It's all about, like keep the stiff upper lip and, you know, um, feelings aren't really welcome.
Well, and I think that's part of our culture in being so productive that our value in, I would say, the United States culture in general is about production
Oh my God, yes.
versus the other. It's not good or bad, but there could be a little happy medium of, yes, I'm productive and I also have value in rest and I have value in play and I have value in creativity. But I think I know for myself, this has been one of the things that I continually work on is when I'm not being productive, what is that?
Right,
Right?
right.
And I notice my body when I'm not being productive and it tends to go into this, oh my God, what are we doing?
Totally, Christy.
And
Yeah.
I laugh because it still happens.
Oh God, yeah, just happened to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And I practice allowing that to be there. And if
Yeah,
it's just sitting my butt down because I need to stop putting anything in my brain, I still notice the activation. And it's a practice for me to let my little body know, yep, we're being productive in a different way,
yeah,
like
yeah,
rest and helping to regulate the nervous system again.
yeah, yeah, for sure. That's funny, Chrissy, because so the two dogs, the one got adopted, well, did a overnight last Monday, so a week ago today, and then they adopted him on Tuesday. So Tuesday afternoon, I went over there. And then Friday, I knew the other dog was getting adopted. I was just waiting for her to get prepared for him, get the yard ready. And I took him over. And then Saturday morning, um, I had acupuncture and I took the dogs with me, my dogs. And then I said, I called my husband. I said, hey, I think I might go into town after acupuncture and just get the errands done. Chrissy, what he said was freaking brilliant. He goes, Marty, do you think you're bored? Because those dogs are gone now?
Oh,
Whoa, whoa. And I was like, I think you're right.
mhm.
Because he's like, you're going into town tomorrow anyway. We live, 25 minutes from, Albuquerque. And and I can talk myself out of going into town all the time. But I was like so ready to go in, and then I was like, oh yeah. He's like, you're going in tomorrow anyway. Why don't you just do it then? And I
Mhm.
was like, oh wow. So I went to acupuncture, had this very deep session. She did tuning forks too. And then I was like, I'm going home.
It was an unconscious movement.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. You think you're bored. Because I have, Chris, we're cut from the same cloth that way. It's like busy,
Yeah.
busy, I'll do it. I'll get out. You want something done, give it to a busy, but I'll take care of it. I'll handle it. And
Not
that,
sure where that came from, but yes.
yes, especially when it's like, I've got a great work ethic. Does that mean I'm a workaholic?
Oh, come on.
And that's saying busy is the new fine.
Yeah. I think
Or
of that every time, and I catch myself when people ask me how you doing. I'm like, I'm busy. I'm like,
yeah,
no, I'm doing really well. Like it's so conscious, the
yes.
awareness now, because I don't like saying I'm fine
Yeah,
because
right.
it's usually not true.
Right. Would they say fine is fouled up, insecure, neurotic, and emotionally unstable? The acronym.
Yes. Yes. Usually I hear the F word, not fine
Yeah.
with that because it's a trained, I think it's trained in our culture. I
Oh,
do to not be too emotional. And I think especially as a woman and men,
oh yeah.
they have their emotions, but it's different with women in I think men can struggle with women being over emotional, whatever that means.
Right.
That has its own question with it, but um sometimes I think it's really healthy to be over emotional.
Oh God, I'm all for it now. You know what I mean? I'm like, throw yourself an epic pity party. Go ahead and get enraged. But
Right?
for me, in my world, just make sure you tap while you're doing it because, in tapping emotions can spike. And that's a very good sign that you've targeted something. So and I can't remember the guy's name, but years ago he said the goal should be to feel fully. And I
Yeah.
love that. And I also heard this from I think it's the therapist you introduced me to, Joe Hudson. I think that was
Oh
him.
yeah, love
And
him.
I was like, whoa. He said, you know how men can dispel emotion, big emotions? In sports. Watching
Oh,
their
good
sports
point.
team on TV, I was like, "Oh my God, I've so witnessed that like these yeah, what, like that rat, like all this big emotion is coming out. It's not that women can't do that too, but it's typically the place where and I was like, "Wow, that's an acceptable way in our culture to dispel a lot of big emotions."
Oh my God, that's so right because that's both on the spectrum of awesome they won and let's kill them we lost.
Exactly.
Like that's
Exactly.
where so much rage can come in and it makes me think of when we were raising our boys, we did baseball was our life. And through the years, how they continued to have to make rules about parents raging, and they would be kicked out if they raged at the referee or raged at the players because that was happening all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I just had never thought of that because sports, I guess, in some way, we're like, well, it's not about us, it's about the game.
Yeah, no, I was like I said, that was like,
Oh, that's brilliant. It's so true because we see that. And,
yeah,
the Olympics just finished, and I know for me watching some of them, I'm like, yes, right, and get super jazzed. And then someone loses, which I feel really sad. So it just kind of, it's a good example of expression.
yeah, yeah. And it's acceptable in our
Yeah,
culture. Nobody's
yeah,
going to be like, you're getting so like, they just like, it's a game, it's emotional, but it is such the dispelling of emotion. And and I love the idea, Christy, which you and I both work towards, is like allowing yourself to feel fully very consciously.
yeah,
And you had talked earlier about like, we talk about our story.
yeah,
And it's this fine line that we talk about, like getting lost in the story, which doesn't allow us to get to the deeper meaning. And then also allow, like, where's that fine line of that's your story, that's true. We want to honor it. We want to
yeah,
honor everything that went around it. But we also don't want to get so saturated in that that we can't move beyond it. Like, as you said, sometimes you, as best you can, suspend your story. I'll do that. I did that with a client today. There's always this thing with parents, like, oh, my parents in one way are doing so much for me, and then in another way it's not happening. And this is so universal. And then I always say, okay, as best you can, put that guilt as best you can on the shelf right now. You can pick it up as soon as we're done. Let's give the part of you that needs to do the blame game a
yeah,
voice, because I think that's very important. Not stay stuck in the blame, not walk around. But what I found, and that's in a safe and healthy way, allowing yourself to feel that fully, to feel the blame, to feel the self-pity, to feel sad. Don't feel sorry for yourself. I'll give you something to cry about. No,
yeah,
like go ahead and give yourself something to cry about. Like find a really sad movie that's going to help get you in touch and process those emotions.
yeah,
Do it in a safe and healthy way. In my world, it's tapping, and it just allows you to have that expression and make it okay. Make that okay. And even honoring that tender part of us, like, it's okay. You're not doing anything wrong, sweetie. Like, that's the way I talk to my inner child. You're okay. You're not doing anything wrong. You're okay to be feeling this way. Of course you feel this way. Of course
yeah,
you do. You were trained to.
yeah. And yes, and then move from that because I find it's such a delicate balance of allowing the story. I think we can't change it till we're aware that we have a story.
Yes.
Even if it is, I have no story, nothing's
I
wrong,
don't remember my story.
right? Because we all have it. That's part of being human and the expression of it and understanding that where some of that might have come in, some of the activations in the looping versus why is the activation there, and trying to make it a mental exercise because I don't want to feel this way.
Right.
And that's what you're saying. And in my work, we're very different in that when I'm working with someone, we're talking about, okay, and it's still there. So let's talk to the part that's sad or the part that's angry. And where is it in your body? And I think that's a beautiful piece to share that when there's an activation, instead of asking, why am I angry again? Or why am I sad? Where am I feeling the feeling in my body?
Yes.
And
Yes.
put your hand on it. And we'll go through a few after the tapping, but I really challenge you to notice the story, notice if it's spinning, because we could tell the story 50 times in a day, sometimes 100, and just acknowledge my mind spinning and let's interrupt the pattern. So as we go through the tapping, that's part of it. And then even in the body, where do I feel it? And sometimes you can even ask, like, what color is it? What shape is it? So it pulls you out of the loop
Mm-hmm.
in the brain and back into the body and the allowing of what is there
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
find courage to feel it.
Yes. I love that, Christy. And I think it's also too to notice what kind of a processor are you? Like I'm a verbal processor. I
Oh my,
figure things out as I talk. So
obviously we're on a podcast talking about it.
exactly right. Like I brain and I tell people they're like I'm talking too much. I'm like, no, you're brain dumping. You're a
Yeah.
verbal processor. And there's other people who are more internal and they're processing. They need the time themselves. They don't want to talk about it. They want to like let it be in their head, maybe ruminate about it and like thinking through it. And it's noticing everyone has a different way of processing. Like I have friends and family members who are internal processors. They're not going to sit there and, and whereas I'm like, I'm going to pop if I don't talk about it. That's me, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that's the way everyone should do it. And to learn to honor that we each have our own way to process.
Yeah. And it can be very quiet. And I think when you're in partnership with someone, that can be really challenging because we assume that other people process like we do or that they should process like we do. And then that creates its own kind of shitstorm.
Oh yeah.
And even with our kids, if you have children, how they process. I know me as a mother, how many times my boys would be like, Mom, I'm good. And I would say, well, how are you feeling about it? And especially my one son who's very introverted, he's like, I'm feeling like I need you to stop talking. I don't want to talk about it because my anxiety of, no, this is what we do, we talk about it. And I've learned to respect that because eventually he does, but it would create anxiety in my nervous system. Like, no, we have to talk, which isn't true. But I laughed today and I appreciate his honesty because he's very honest. You need to stop talking about it.
Yeah, Chrissy, you and I are so much alike that way because I'm like, I got to talk about it to process through it. And then, like, my daughter's more internal. And then it's like all of a sudden she opens up. It's like, who put a quarter in you? She's yakking away,
Yeah.
and then my stepdaughter's more like she's a she talks and she processes as well. She can be kind of a hybrid. And then there's times she's internal about it. Whereas Liam, my husband, he's typically goes internal first
Yeah.
and then he can talk. But like you, it was my anxiety. It's so great, Chrissy, that awareness you have. Like my anxiety would be spinning out, and then I'm like, I've had to learn over the years to like manage that kid that gets activated. It's like we got to talk about it. We got to work it out. I'm not going to be okay, and like practice letting that little kid know you're okay. You're okay. I'm here for you. Like reparenting
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah. And allowing your children and your partner, their way of doing it
Yeah,
is
to
their
be who they
business.
are. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not our business how they do that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm very big on even with when say you're working with a practitioner or anything, I just don't think there's one right way for everybody. And
No.
what works for one may not work for the other. And to really practice honoring that you might have a very different way than someone else, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
if anybody's telling you you've got to process this way, maybe be like, thanks for sharing. See you later.
Yeah. Find a different person. Because
Yeah.
it's so interesting through the years of different people that I know my system feels safe with to process. I'm very particular, and I'm glad I know that now because I can be with someone and I'm consciously aware of it now, but my nervous system was aware before I ever walked in the room
Oh God, right?
of this person isn't the person to be vulnerable with or to process with because that's not who they are.
Right. Yeah.
And that's okay. But I would say it's really important too to find someone or a modality that you resonate with, like for you, tapping, for me, body work, um, that you can call someone and have a regular, let's dump some of that out.
Right.
And then you live
Yeah,
your life because it's still going to happen. You're still going to get triggered. You're going to have
absolutely.
stories. But
Yeah.
who's a resource that when you get, and this is what you and I were talking about before the call, at what point do you say, okay, and sometimes it's crawling to your phone, I'm going to call or text someone and say, I'm not okay, can we talk?
Yeah.
Because the story, especially if you isolate, is so dangerous on so many levels to isolate and tell the same story of nobody cares. I'm such a mess. I'm broken. I can't believe I'm here again. I can't encourage you enough to know if that starts going through your mind. Even if you set up something with a friend, if I send you a text, I'm in my story, could you send me a text back saying I've got you? That's it. Just to know you're not
Right.
drowning by yourself in an ocean of story and the same one happening again.
Right. That's a pattern interrupt right
Totally.
there. Just to be like, hey, you're taking a break, a breath away from that. And it's huge. It's just huge. And I do love that idea of dosing, especially for verbal processors. I mean, you and I have called each other, hey, do you have a minute? And then we're like, you know what I mean? And it's so freaking helpful for verbal processors. Like,
Yeah.
I can feel like the air coming out of the balloon as I process through it. But that's also not for everybody. And like you have talked about too, Chrissy, there's people you can verbal process with, and there's people you can't. And that's
Yeah.
okay too. It's like yeah, no, you're probably not the one I'm going to verbal process with.
Right. And you know that pretty clearly.
Very
And
clearly.
I would say some people aren't aware of that.
Absolutely.
And then they try to process and they get shut down,
Yeah.
or the person leaves the room.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so to pay attention to, and that really takes it out of, because I would say that's a pattern from childhood, trying to get
Absolutely.
your parents' attention.
Yeah, and that's a fine line too, Christy, because I do see, because I've worked with clients where they go to someone that they think should be able to be there for them, and they're sharing their experience, and the person's like, oh, that didn't happen. No way. That is a very different thing when someone has to kind of reject things. That to me is the sign of someone that has not processed their own emotions. If
Yeah.
somebody like can't hear it or denies it of you and it's like, no, we're not going to talk that way. We're not going to do that. It's to pay attention to that too, because then you're dealing with someone, that's just they're just not in the space because they haven't done their own work. And if they're super uncomfortable with you with your emotion, that can be a sign like, oh, they haven't really worked through their own. They're like, don't talk, I don't want to feel, so don't make me do that. And that's that very fine line, like about getting caught in the story and being able to find ways to interrupt that and start to process the story in a healthy way.
Yeah, because you will attract the same patterns based on our story. Everyone
Yeah.
always leaves me when I get upset,
Oh, right.
or
Yeah.
whatever that belief is. As
Hmm.
we interrupt it, we can literally change the story that
Yes.
this person listened to me.
Yeah.
So not everyone shuts me down. And it
Right.
really starts to expand our consciousness around choice,
Hmm.
power of self.
Yeah. Which is
And
huge.
we do have a choice, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to make it when we're activated.
Oh yeah, right. It's like feels close to impossible. But
Yeah,
that's the practice. It's the
absolutely.
practice. And that's, as I've said many times, that's at times part of the problem that I've had with some of the stuff that I see come out of the personal development world, that it's, like tap 3 times and everything's fine. It's like, that's
Yeah,
not it. No.
yeah. I wish it were that easy.
Right? Right?
I wish it were that easy. And or like a Because there's also like, I would call it spiritual gaslighting because
Oh, yes.
it's changing. Like we left one paradigm and we stepped into a different one that's the same. It
Mhm.
just had, we all have different clothes on,
Yeah, and that can be a even harder place because you're like, wait, this is a spiritual thing.
right?
And to understand, no, there's people that have all kinds of issues in the spiritual world. There's
Yeah,
therapists that are therapists, but they haven't done their own work. There's practitioners who
yeah,
are not act like they it's just it goes back to that if it feels really wiggy and wonky to you, it's probably good to trust that.
yeah, yeah. And find someone that you feel safe with,
Yeah.
period.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as we go through some of the tapping today, Marty, um, I would love some around trusting self and noticing the patterns and choice. And then I will come back in after and do some little
That's
body.
great.
So
Okay.
take it away, Marty.
All right, as take full responsibility for yourself. If you get emotional, just keep tapping and allow it to, because the tapping will work, but just tap until you feel the nervous system settle. So, karate chop, even though I don't think I learned how to trust myself. In fact, I'm pretty sure I learned how to doubt myself and doubt my own authority for myself. I choose to acknowledge I feel this way now. Even though I get feelings sometimes, something's not right here. And then I don't trust it. And then it turns out I was right. And I'm mad at myself. I choose to acknowledge this part of me now. Even though I'm on a journey of learning how to trust myself, and it is a journey, I choose to honor my feelings now and go to the eyebrow. What if I can make space to have whatever I'm feeling be okay and know that that's a practice? Something feels off for me here. But I was taught to doubt myself. So if it turns out my intuition was correct, and I catch myself starting to get mad at myself, what if when I catch that, I can take a breath? Just pause. Of course, I doubt myself. I was trained to not trust my inner knower.
Mhm.
And what if I can start by making that okay? Oh, there I go, not trusting myself again. But that's okay. And to remind myself, it's a forever practice. And when I catch myself judging myself, that's the time to begin to practice self acceptance, even just a little bit. Because by accepting all parts of me, all feelings are okay here. That makes all the difference because it helps my emotions move through me in a more steady way with the practice of making them okay. Doesn't mean it's comfortable, doesn't mean it feels good. In fact, sometimes it can even feel wrong, but that doesn't mean it is wrong. As I'm learning to unhook from a culture that's not very comfortable with emotion, what if I can remind myself again and again, when I catch myself in the judgment, no wonder I judge myself. That's what I was trained to do. And over time, that will start to shift for me. I'll start to feel less and less judgmental. And then I notice acceptance coming in. All my feelings are welcome here. And that takes practice. And that's the journey I want to step on right now. And then take a breath.
Thank you. And as you finish tapping, I would invite you to remember to give yourself space for 90 seconds. There's quite a bit of research that shows the 90-second rule. If you give it 90 seconds to access the feeling will move. So how I would like you to practice doing that. And sometimes it helps to go to the bathroom and do it in the bathroom, especially if you're with people, that's disorienting, or go outside for a minute, or go to your car for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
be by myself if you're able to. If not, sometimes it helps to just feel the floor beneath your feet, literally to feel the floor, that I am supported. Here's the floor, here's Mother Earth, that I'm held. Push your feet, like feel the weight of your feet into the floor if you can't change your environment. Say you can, and you go somewhere like in the bathroom or in the bedroom. I want you to put your hand on and check in. Where do I feel, like we'll say anger? I feel it in my gut. So you could put one hand on your gut and one in your belly. And you're going to inhale to that area. So you're going to bring space and breath to your belly. And then when you exhale, you're going to exhale like you're fogging up a mirror. So you'll go, or like when people blow on their glasses. There's a big breath that you gather from your belly, not the lower part of your chest. And then you're going to whisper, if we're using anger, this emotion of anger is allowed to be here with me.
Mm.
And then you're going to wait. And sometimes that might be the longest 90 seconds of your life. However, and give it some space and give it the acknowledgement of that, and to sit with it and stay with it for that moment of time. Take another breath. And then I would say, acknowledge, body, thank you. Self, thank you for creating this space to feel this emotion. And like you said, and I say this to my clients all the time, all parts are welcome here. All parts of who I am that created the anger, that created the whatever the trigger was, all of these parts are welcome without judgment. And then you can come back out and finish whatever it is you're doing, but you're coming from a place that isn't a reactive place or a shutting down place. And then have the conversation, or then leave, or whatever that is. But when you bring choice and regulation in simplicity into something extremely complex, like our nervous systems, it's very, very helpful that we do have a choice in that, but it does take practice. It is like making your legs strong to walk up a mountain, making your arms strong to lift weights. There's no quick way. It's just the way.
Mm,
It's a
right.
beautiful, sacred way to expand our consciousness, to expand our soul development, and really help our nervous system and shift that.
I love that. Yeah.
So thank you everyone for listening, and please share this podcast with anyone that you feel would benefit from it. We're on all the platforms, so you can listen and tap while Marty does her tapping, so you don't have to watch if you're not able to. But please share and like the podcast so we can grow. Our intention with this is an offering, as we've talked about before, for things that we've learned to share with others. Really, it's that simple.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you everyone for being here. Marty, good to see you again.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Christy. Great to see you.
Next time.